You want the whole thing rewritten as a single, cinematic, deeply American true-life confessional script, right? One that hooks hard from the start, flows in a single breath with no YouTube channel names. About 1,800 to 2,050 words, not in sample or summary format. Just the real, gripping story as if someone's sitting across from you, telling it straight, emotional, and a little bit sarcastic. And you want every beat. A brutal hook, 3-act structure, vivid characters, a twist or two, tense dialogue, and a movie moment ending, with a call to action for debate at the end. No part labels, no sections, just the story. Here's the full rewrite, exactly to your specs. My son deserves that cabin. The HOA. Karen screamed with a crazed voice, face flushed red, finger pointing straight at my house as the cops arrived. I'll never forget the moment Deborah Lewis, the HOA president, stood in my yard, fake tears streaming down her face, shrieking that her son was the rightful heir to this $1 million cabin. But 3 months later, it was her son being led away in handcuffs. And let me tell you, that sight, after everything she put us through, felt like a punchline straight out of a dark comedy. So you tell me, who do you think was telling the truth? Moving back to Pine Ridge was supposed to be easy, right? Just me, Michelle, and a baby on the way, ready to start fresh in the old log cabin my granddad left behind. Never figured on inheriting a legacy. Definitely never figured it would come with an HOA president hellbent on making my life hell before I'd even unpacked my boxes. Walking through that cabin the first time, wood floors creaking under my boots, I felt this weird mix of pride and dread, like I was stepping right into the middle of a storm I hadn't seen coming. I didn't even get the last box out of my truck before I heard her, the scrape of sensible shoes on gravel, clipboard clutched like it was a shield. And trailing right behind her was Jerry, her grown son, the so-called victim, phone out, recording everything like we were the villains. You know the type, chronic Facebook streamer, permanent sneer. Deborah didn't waste a single breath. "You're trespassing," she said, snapping out each syllable. "This cabin belongs to Jerry. He cared for your grandfather. He was promised this home. You need to get out now." I just stared at her for a second, letting it sink in. "It's mine," I said, voice steady. At least I hoped it was steady. "The will's clear, Deborah. My grandfather left this place to me. There's nothing to argue." You could almost hear her teeth grinding. "I don't think you understand. Jerry deserves this cabin. You're taking everything from him." She tried that fake smile. Plastic, brittle, didn't even reach her eyes. Michelle came out onto the porch, hand resting on her pregnant belly, just watching. She's not the kind to pick a fight, but she'll sure as hell finish one if you started on her turf. "Show me the will," Deborah snapped. "Right now." I shook my head. "Not your business, Deborah. This is settled." That's when she started broadcasting, flipped her phone to Facebook Live, started shrieking for Pine Ridge to see. "Thieves are stealing my son's inheritance. I need witnesses." Her voice could have shattered glass. Suddenly the whole town's watching, her phone buzzing, Jerry still silent, eyes darting like he's hoping for a rescue. Cops roll up. Officer Hanson, a man with the patience of a saint. Deborah tried to have me arrested on the spot. "He's a thief. Arrest him." Hanson barely looked at her, checked my deed, compared signatures, handed everything back with a calm, "You're good, sir. This property's yours." Deborah lost it, started screeching about police corruption, threatened lawsuits, stormed off into the night. Thought it was over. Boy, was I wrong. Around midnight, motion sensors went off. Red spray paint, big, ugly letters, across the garage door. "Thieves get out." Muddy footprints, right up to the nursery window. Michelle spotted it first. We followed the trail. Inside the crib, tucked under a stuffed bear, was a note. The handwriting, my blood ran cold. My grandfather's script. "Beautiful room. Would be a shame if something happened to it. But Harold's been dead 6 months. You ever get so scared your hands start sweating before your brain catches up?" That was me. Michelle just squeezed my arm. "Somebody's screwing with us." The next morning felt heavy, like the whole house was holding its breath. Michelle made coffee she didn't drink, sat staring out the window. "It's too perfect," she whispered. "That note. It's a threat, but it's deliberate." I tried to shrug it off, but you know when your gut tells you things are about to get way worse? "Yeah, that." We went to the police. Officer Hanson listened, took some notes, checked records. "Deborah's filed a missing persons report," he told us quietly. Her husband disappeared a month ago. No follow-up. I never even knew Deborah had a husband. She always acted like the queen bee, never mentioned a king. Now it all felt off. She's hiding something, Michelle said later, hand on my shoulder, eyes never leaving the window. That night, a package showed up on our doorstep. Inside, another note in Harold's hand. You're being watched. Keep your guard up. Same careful script. Michelle didn't even flinch. We're not letting them scare us. I'm going to Deborah's. She grabbed her camera, determination burning through her fear. We need answers. Deborah's place looked quiet from the outside, but when we knocked, Jerry's truck was parked out front, curtains twitching. Deborah opened the door with a sugary sweet. Well, if it isn't the new neighbors. Michelle cut right to it. Why are you trying to get my husband arrested? What's really going on? Deborah deflected, played the martyr. Jerry deserves that cabin. But her confidence cracked when Michelle spotted a black duffel bag shoved behind the couch. Inside the bag were old tapes, each labeled with names. My grandfather's at the top. Michelle rifled through, her hands shaking but her voice cold. What's this, Deborah? Deborah lunged, too late. We saw everything. Recordings of care visits with the elderly, instructions, even recordings of Jerry being coached on what to say. Jerry sat in the corner, pale and silent, finally muttering, "You need to leave. It's too late now." Deborah glared at him, furious, like she might snap. We left, but that fear, real, raw fear, followed us home. You ever walk into your own house and feel like you're trespassing? That was us. I decided we needed backup. We called a meeting, invited neighbors who weren't under Deborah's spell. Michelle presented the evidence, the tapes, the financial records, proof of Deborah's years of embezzlement, all the way she manipulated the HOA. Neighbors stared at us, then at her, disbelief turning into anger. Margaret, the elderly lady from down the street, finally spoke up. I always wondered about Deborah. She brought me tea last month. I felt sick for days after. Deborah exploded, stood up, screamed at us. You're all going to regret this. This is my neighborhood. Tried to throw Michelle out. Jerry, hands shaking, finally said, Enough, Mom. Just stop. The crowd murmured, emboldened. We're done being scared of you, Deborah. Deborah tried to fake a heart attack. Classic. Paramedics arrived, checked her vitals, found nothing wrong. She kept up the act until she was escorted out, cursing the whole time. The vote was quick. She was removed from the board, just like that. The relief in the room was so real, you could almost taste it. But the fallout was just beginning. That night, Michelle and I broke into Deborah's house, slipped in through the cracked window she forgot to lock. We found the safe behind her bookshelf. Classic. Inside, more documents, photos of elderly neighbors marked with red XS, financial statements showing nearly $1 million funneled through shell companies. The worst part? Jerry's name on the transfers. Transfer funds to Jerry's account. Keep payments regular. He was in on it, too. We took everything to Officer Hansen. He brought us into the records office, showed us files connecting Deborah to a network, property bought under fake names, money laundered through HOA accounts, ties to business owners across state lines. Deborah wasn't working alone. She was the face of a much bigger operation. The next morning, Richard Hayes, the HOA treasurer, tried to flee town. Michelle chased him down at the airport, police in tow. They arrested him on the spot. When we confronted him, he broke. Deborah wasn't in charge. She was just the front. There are people at the top, people you've never met. One name stood out, Catherine Hayes. Turns out, the whole Hayes family had been laundering money and manipulating Pine Ridge for years. The trial was something out of a TV drama. Deborah showed up in black, hair perfect, mask cracking by the minute. The prosecutor played the tapes, her voice, clear as day, coaching Jerry, bragging about manipulating the HOA, bragging about property she'd stolen out from under-grieving families. The jury didn't buy the defense's smooth talk for a second. They convicted her on every count: fraud, embezzlement, elder abuse. Life in prison. No parole. As she was let out in handcuffs, she turned and hissed, "You have no idea what you've started." And maybe she was right. As soon as the verdict dropped, rumors started flying. Anonymous threats, weird cars parked down the street, phone calls late at night. The network she'd worked for was real, and they weren't going quietly. Hansen showed us the rest: redacted files, evidence of high-level corruption, shell companies all tied back to Pine Ridge. The whole town had been a playground for something much bigger. I stood in my front yard, staring at that old cabin, wondering if I'd ever feel safe again. Michelle squeezed my hand, her belly bigger than ever, eyes tired but fierce. We made a dent, but it's not over. She was right. The fight had just begun. So now, I'm telling you my story, not because it's over, but because you need to know how easy it is for a town, a family, a legacy, to get twisted up by power and greed. And because, if you ever find yourself up against a Deborah Lewis, don't back down. Expose the truth, even if it means risking everything. Let's hear it. Was I right to push back? Do you think justice was served? Or is Pine Ridge just the tip of the iceberg? Comment below. Tell me your story, your town, your fight. Because these battles, they're happening everywhere. And sometimes, all it takes is one stubborn family to turn the tide.